This is the third part of the screencast on Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. And when we left off at in the end of the last screencast, we were talking about the green sash that the lady presses on Gawain to take. And we've seen Gawain really remaining kind of very true to his code of chivalric ethos that we've talked about multiple times at this point. You know, here's this lady, she's trying to tempt him, and Gawain is being very courteous and not wanting to offend her, but also wanting to, maintain a sense of chivalry here with this married woman. And he's denied her all the other gifts so far and only has accepted kisses up until this point. But here is this green sash, and so he's at first he's like, no, I can't take it. He says, with apologies, I pray you be not displeased. But end all your offers, for always against them I am. For all your grace, I owe 1,000 thank yous, ma'am. I shall sun and snow remain your loyal man. So he said, I can't take it, but I'm so thankful for all of your favor, and I promise to be your loyal knight. And serve you as you see fit, but I just can't accept the gift. And so she's like, well, do you spurn this silk because it's so simple? It appears so simple, it seems like it's worth nothing. She said, but if you knew the power knitted in it, you would pay a higher price to possess it, perhaps. For the body, which is bound within this green belt, as long as it is buckled robustly about him, will be safe against anyone who seeks to strike him. And all the slyness on earth wouldn't see him slain. So he really kind of has to take a pause there, because he's torn between his honor as a knight and the way to save his life from the Green Knight's blow. It would have been difficult for, I think, anybody. Most people would have just jumped on the chance and grabbed the sash. And so he really has kind of like a moral dilemma there while he's thinking about whether or not he wants to take or accept that gift. So, as you can guess, he is going to take it. The man mulled it over, and it entered in his mind it might just be the jewel for the jeopardy he faced and save him from the strike in his challenge at the chapel. With luck, it might let him escape with his life. So, relenting at last, he let her speak, and promptly she pressed him to take the present, and he granted her wish, and she gave with good grace, though went on to beg him not to whisper a word of this gift to her husband, and Gawain agreed. Okay, so that night Lord Host returns from the hunt. This time he just had a single fox with him. The irony of that, since foxes are sneaky and sly, right? Gawain gives him the 3 kisses he had won, but he does not say anything of the green sash. And so he's keeping his pact with the lady, and not to speak of it to her husband, but he is not keeping his pact with the Lord by refusing to tell him about the sash. So the next morning, Gawain wakes up. He begins getting himself ready for the Green Knight's challenge. He dresses in his armor, and you guessed it, he firmly fastens that green girdle around his waist. And so, true to his word, the host sends him with a guide. And so, with the guide, they begin making their way to where the Green Chapel is. And so the guide is really very chatty this early in the morning, and he begins to warn Gawain of the dangers that he will face if he decides to go to the Green Chapel. He says, if you value your health, you'll hear my advice. The place you proceed to is held to be perilous. In that wilderness lives a wild man, the worst in the world. He is brooding and brutal and loves bludgeoning people. He is more powerful than any person alive on this earth, and 4 times the figure of any fighting knight in Arthur's house. Okay, so he's like, dude, where you're going is very dangerous, and the guy that lives there, the guy that is rumored to live there, is more dangerous than anybody you've ever seen, anybody you know. And he says that He should let the man go. He says, let the man go. Um, because if you don't, you're going to be killed. There's no question about that. He says, let the man go, and for God's sakes, travel an alternate track, ride another road, and be rescued by Christ. I'll head off home, and with hand on heart, I shall swear by God and all his good saints, and on all earthly holiness, and other such oaths, that your secret is safe, and that not a soul will know that you fled in fear from the fellow I described. So the servant is like, hey, if you want to run away, I'm not going to call you a coward. I'll keep your secret. I'll tell everybody that that you went and met the challenge or whatever. And Gawain really kind of steps up to the plate here. We're talking about that whole idea of never to back down from a challenge and to always carry out your pacts. And Gawain says, many thanks. And for having my interest at heart, be lucky. I'm certain such a secret will be silent in your keep, but as faithful as you are, if I failed to find him and were to flee in fear in the fashion you urge, I'd be christened a coward and could not be excused. So I'll trek to the chapel and take my chances. Say my piece to that person. Speak with him plainly, whether fairness or foulness follows, however fate behaves. And so the stranger's like, okay, buddy, you asked for it. I'm going to leave you here. And if you'll keep riding through this forest, you'll find what you're looking for. And so Gawain rides on into the strange forest. He sees no buildings in sight except a mound, kind of like a knoll on the bank of a little small hill. And as he gets closer to it, he can see that there's like a cave inside of it. And so he believes that this must be the Green Chapel. So as he's approaching the cave, he hears the sound of an axe being sharpened. So he knows he's in the right place. He calls out for the Green Knight, who appears, axe in hand. And the Green Knight at first says, hey, you showed up. He says, sweet sir, your visit keeps your vow. And so he said, God guards you, Gawain. Welcome to my world. After all your wandering, you have timed your arrival like a true traveler, honoring the terms that entwine us together. You kept your pact. You showed up. And he says, now let's get on with it. So Gawain is going to make himself ready. He reminds the Green Knight that, I promise for one stroke. He says, so keep to one stroke and I'll stand stock still. I won't whisper a word of unwillingness or one complaint. Okay. So he gets into position, and I'm just going to kind of briefly run through this. He gets into position. The Green Knight hefts up the axe, brings it down with full force, but he stops himself right before he makes contact, because he sees Gawain cast his eyes, kind of flinch just a little bit. And so then he's going to mock Gawain for flinching. He stops and he says, you're not Gawain with his good name, who faced down every foe in the field of battle, but now flinches with fear at the foretaste of harm. I haven't even touched you yet, and you're already flinching. And so Gawain said, okay, that was like a practice run. Like, I'm really ready now. He said, I flinched at first, but I will not fail. Though once my head's unhitched, it's off once and for all. Hey, I am gonna, if you chop my head off, it's not gonna return. Okay. So the second time, Green Knight hefts up the axe. He brings it down with full force and stops it again just in time. And so Gawain looks up at him and he's like, dude, I didn't even move. Like, I didn't sway. I mean, I was perfectly still. And the Green Knight says, he said, okay, well, I see you got your courage back. And he says, now that you've plucked up your courage, I'll dispatch you properly. May the honorable knighthood heaped upon you by Arthur, if it proves to be powerful, protect your neck. And so this makes Gawain kind of angry, because he is, he's like, just get on with it already. So the third time, the Green Knight hefts up the axe. He brings it down with full force, and the axe skewed to one side, just skimming the skin, and finally snicking the fat of the flesh, so that the bright red blood shot from the body to the earth. Seeing it shining on the snowy ground, Gawain leaped forward at its spear's length at last, grabbed hold of his helmet, rammed it on his head, brought his shield to his side with a shimmy of his shoulder, then brandished his sword before blurting out brave words, because never since birth as his mother's babe was he half as happy as here and now. Enough swiping, sir. You've swung your swing. I've borne one blow without backing out. Go for me again, and you'll get some by return with interest. Hit out and be hit in an instant and hard. And the warrior is like, hey, nobody, chill out. Nobody here has behaved with any kind of bad behavior towards you. He says, be a mite less feisty, fearless young fellow. You suffered no insulting or heinous incident beyond the game we agreed on the court of your king. One strike was promised. Consider yourself well paid. From any lingering loyalties you are hereby released. He said, had I mustered all my muscles into one mighty blow, I would have hit more harshly and done you great harm. But my first strike fooled you, a feint, no less, not fracturing your flesh, which was only fair, in keeping the contract we declared that first night, for with truthful behavior you honored my trust and gave up your gains as a good man should. He said, the first time I held back the axe was because you showed up. You kept your pact, just like you promised. You showed up. Then he said, I missed you once more, and this for the morning when you kissed my pretty wife, then kindly kissed me. So twice you were truthful, therefore twice I left no scar. He said, the second time I held back the axe is because you, by the way, hello, I'm the host of the mansion that you've been staying at, and that you kept your other pact with me where you returned what you won at the end of the day. When my pretty wife kissed you, you returned those kisses to me, and so that's why I left no scar the second time. He says, however, that third time, you were less than loyal. He says, because the belt you are bound with belongs to me. It was woven by my wife, so I know it very well. And I know of your courtesies and conduct and kisses and the wooing of my wife, for it was all my work. I sent her to test you, and in truth, it turns out you're by far the most faultless fellow on the earth. As a pearl is more prized than a pea, which is white, in good faith, so is Gawain amongst gallant knights. But a little thing more, it was loyalty that you lacked. Okay, he said, the third time I brought the axe down because you strayed a little bit. That sash that you're wearing, it belongs to me, and I sent her to test you, and you took the sash and you didn't tell me about it. So that's why I nicked you that third time. And so of course Gawain is so embarrassed and so ashamed, he's speechless. He said, the knight said, but a little thing more, it was loyalty that you liked, not because you're wicked or a womanizer or worse, but because you loved your own life, so I blame you less. He said, you didn't do it because you were wicked or because you wanted my wife. You did it because you loved your life, and that's why I didn't stretch you out and kill you here. And so, of course, Gawain is speechless, and he's ashamed, and blood is rushing to his face, and he says, a curse upon cowardice and covetousness. They breed villainy and vice and destroy all virtue. And then he takes the girdle and flings it at the Green Knight. He says, my downfall and undoing, let the devil take it. Dread of the death blow and cowardly doubts meant I gave in to greed, and in doing so forgot the freedom and fidelity every knight knows to follow. And now I am found flawed and false. Through treachery and untruth, I have totally failed, said Gawain. Such terrible mistakes, I shall bear the blame, but tell me what it takes to clear my clouded name. He says he's a failure, and he's going to take responsibility for what he's done, but he asked the Green Knight if anything can be done to clear his name and make this right. And so the Green Knight laughs, and he's like, dude, it's water under the bridge, since you've confessed all your sins. That little choppity chop that I gave you there is your punishment. And he says, I declare you purged, as polished and as pure as the day you were born, without blemish or blame. And this gold hem girdle I present as a gift, which is green like my gown. It is yours, Sir Gawain, as a reminder of our meeting when you mix and mingle with princes and kings. And this keepsake will be proof to all chivalrous knights of your challenge in this chapel. He's like, take this and keep it as a reminder of what has happened here and what you've learned here. And he invites Gawain back home. Gawain says, no thanks, I've got to go. And so Gawain leaves and returns to Camelot, and he tells the people his story, and he tells them of the ultimate lessons that he learned there at the Green Chapel.